Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining this session today. My name's Claire Drose, and I'm the team lead for the student recruitment team at the AICPA and CIMA. I've got with me today Michelle Wanless, who is the financial controller at Avove Ltd. So the plan for the session today is that we will both be doing a presentation each. Firstly, I'll be doing a presentation with regards to the professional qualification, a bit more information about management accounting, and then we will go into Michelle's presentation where you'll actually be able to hear from the horse's mouth, so to speak, with regards to her actual journey. She's CIMA qualified, so you'll be able to really get a good feeling as to what she actually does in real life. So it's a really good opportunity for you to hear from Michelle. And then at the end, we'll do a Q&A. So please see at the bottom right-hand side of your screen, you'll see a questions tab. That's where you can put any of the questions that you have in today's session, and we'll refer to that once we've both done both of our presentations. So that's sort of the layout of the session today. What I want to do first is go into my part. So my name's Claire Drose. I'm the team lead for the student recruitment team at the AICPA and CIMA, and I've been with the professional qualification for over 13 years now, actually working for the qualification. And prior to that, I was working in finance and accounting recruitment for over 8 years. So I've got a good understanding as to what employers are looking for, what the qualification is all about, and within my team, we actually work with all of the universities within the UK. So we do a lot of things from accrediting universities through to presentations like this and business game sessions, skills sessions, really helping people like yourselves to sort of have a good understanding of the qualification, a good understanding of management accounting, and why you might choose that career and take that journey. So in today's presentation with myself, I'm just going to sort of explain everything to you, and hopefully you'll have a better gist as to what management accounting is and what the AICPA CIMA professional qualification is all about. So just to start off, we are a global professional qualification. Quite a few years back now, we actually had a joint venture with the AICPA in America, which is the main accounting qualification in America, and that's the CPAs in the United States. So we joined together, and we are now known as the AICPA and CIMA. You will see a lot of these different logos, but just to sort of say and point out that we are the same thing. CIMA stands for the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants. The CIMA CGMA qualification is the qualification, if that's the route that you choose to go down, that's the qualification that you'd choose to do. So CGMA stands for Chartered Global Management Accountant. So there's a lot of acronyms, as you'll probably find in the world of finance and accounting, but this is just to explain to you sort of why you might see sort of some different variations. But we are a global qualification. So I want to take it back a few steps, because some of you today may or may not know much about accounting or the world of finance and accounting. So I just wanted to make it really clear that there are two different types of accounting. So there's financial accounting and there's management accounting. And this, just to make this clear, makes it a lot easier to understand what the CIMA CGMA qualification is about compared to other accounting qualifications that you may hear about if you look to sort of find out further information. So financial accounting is very much the stereotypical accounting type of a function. So if you think of an accountant job, stereotypically, you think of something Sorry, I think I just got lost there. Sorry, I'll just go back to what I was saying. Financial accounting is looking at the numbers. So this is what you would think of if you think of the word accountant, what people tend to think of. It is sitting in that accounts function, that back office accounts function, and it is looking at doing very much that number crunching side of things and reporting on what's historically happened within the business. You may be working in tax or audit. Now that's the stereotypical, when somebody says the word accountant, what people tend to think of, and that's more the financial accounting side of things. Management accounting is more about looking at the business as a whole. Yes, looking at the numbers, but looking at lots of different factors that affect a business decision. So it's not just numbers that affect business decisions, it's different things like economic environment, staffing issues, lots of different things that management accountants pull together, including figures and numbers, but pulled together in order to help the managers of the business make business decisions to move the business that you work for forwards. So there's a lot of forecasting, there's a lot of analysis work, there's a lot of strategic work that as a management accountant you would be involved in and doing. So for somebody who is interested in business as a whole, if you're interested in that strategic side of things, that is more the management accounting side. And that is more what the CIMA, CGMA qualification focuses on. So that would be why you would choose to go down the route of choosing the CIMA qualification over potentially the other accounting qualifications, because their focus is more within their syllabus, more focused on the financial accounting side of things. Yes, there will be an element of the management accounting, but we are predominantly that management accounting focus within our professional qualification and within our syllabus. So just to give you a few examples of, the different types of stuff, and you will be hearing obviously from Michelle in a bit, and her example of her journey and what she actually does in real life in her role and what she has done in previous roles and things like that as somebody who is CIMA qualified. But just to give you a few examples and to have you really sort of thinking about what management accountants do within different jobs, this is what is there's some examples on here that you can sort of look at. So I've done quite a few presentations over the years with different people who are CIMA qualified or studying towards CIMA whilst they're working in different industries and different businesses. And one of them, for example, would be somebody who worked at Sky, who is talking about the role that she does. And she is the person who actually pulls all the information together with regards to viewing trends, different things and trends on different movies that are coming out and everything. And she would be the person directly behind what we're watching and why, because she would be telling the people, the managers or the people within the business, actually what movies they should be purchasing and when they should be airing them. I've done a presentation with the commercial finance director of Matalan talking about the fact that she was part of the project team where she would be looking at new Matalan stores. And she said that she would be going out to sites, she'd be looking at different buildings to repurpose for the store, or she'd be looking at land sites where you might look at building a new store, and pulling all those options together and wondering and sort of suggesting to the business based on all the information she's pulling together. And that's things like proximity to Primark, the location with regards to public transport and everything. So she'd be pulling all that information together and telling the business and suggesting to the business which options they should be going for a new store. And one thing I have found from people talking to about why they chose to study towards the CIMA CGMA qualification and take that more management accounting route is because they are interested in that more tangible side of the business. Instead of just sort of doing the numbers, crunching those, reporting on it, and that's that. Actually, they like the more management accounting side because they can be really involved in the business and have that tangible aspect to it. And I'm sure Michelle will sort of talk more around that, that as well, and her sort of thoughts behind that. So this slide is really just to show you that there are a whole load of job titles out there that somebody who's CIMA studier or CIMA qualified might hold. It's not just management accountant or assistant management accountant. You know, you may be CIMA qualified and actually be a management consultant or a business analyst or a finance transformation consultant. So there's actually a huge plethora of job titles out there that you might find yourself holding or looking at when you're actually looking for job roles. So when you're searching job roles, it's not just searching on management accountant, it's actually a whole variation of job roles and job titles that our students and members actually hold, which I also think shows how open a world is in management accounting, as opposed to, I think a lot of people fear being typecast and narrowed when they're studying towards a professional qualification. But with management accounting, this really isn't the case. And I think that's because you have naturally exposure to such a wide variety of the business, so many different teams that you would be working with as a manager, more within that management accounting role, that long term in your career, it opens a lot more doors just because of that natural exposure that you would gain and involvement from the business as a whole, as opposed to that back office accounts function that you might get sort of find a bit more when you're in the more management accounting side of things. So a lot of people don't understand that if they choose to go down the management accounting route, that you can actually work in any sector anywhere. I had somebody quite a while back say that they really were interested in management accounting, but they didn't want to work in manufacturing. Now, that is where we were born from 100 years ago as a professional. I think I got lost again then. Hopefully I'm back on, and that's okay. This is where we had, where we were born 100 years ago as a professional qualification, that management accounting side of things. So hopefully, you know, you can understand that it doesn't limit you as to which area you may want to go into, okay, and which business that you may want to work for. So you can work in lots and lots of different areas, lots of different industries. If you are interested in fashion or retail, I've done presentations with people who work as and who are CIMA qualified working for ASOS, talking about how the reason that they chose to work for ASOS or went for a job opportunity there is because they're really interested in that sort of world of fashion, but they weren't that creative side where they were going to go and design fashion, but they wanted to be involved in it in a business way. So, you know, just really have a good think about the industries that are of interest to you as well. And this is just to give you a bit of a visual to really get you thinking about the different industries and the different types of things. And I gave you some examples already that you could be involved in on that more management accounting strategic side of things. Now, on our website, we have got so many different examples and blogs and case studies around real life people, the job roles that they do, the companies that they work for, talking about what they do and why they chose to go down that route as a career option. And I do think that if you don't have an understanding as to what you want to do at this moment in time, then actually reading case studies, reading blogs, reading about actual real life people and what they're doing, and again, why we've got Michelle on here to talk to you guys today, this is really helpful to for you to really work out, is this the route that I want to go down? Because from what you're reading or listening to, you will understand if it's something that you want to go down. And just to give you, Hiren, who was a senior consultant at EY, saying, this is just an extract from his case study, but saying that he's got many different roles within different projects, working as part of a team, and that designed the operating model for a charity one moment, and then a few months later part of a cost reduction team at a global energy company. So there's lots of different examples of the different types of work that you can get involved in, and I do think that reading these sorts of things, you will know if that's the type of route you want to go down. So on this slide, I've got a video that I'm just going to let you hear from some real life people again, and just a snapshot of their thoughts behind why they chose to go down the management accounting CIMA route.
CIMA was always very, let's look at what's just happened, let's see how we can drive the client's business forward, assisting the client with the management and the strategy of their business, rather than just sort of counting what happened in the past for compliance purposes. It just didn't interest me. I wanted to help.
I decided to study the CIMA qualification for a couple of reasons. It's a very well-rounded qualification covering management accounting, financial accounting, and a number of business subjects, including project management. It's also internationally recognised, and for me, I really want to be able to travel in the future, maybe to places such as the States. And CIMA has a partnership now with the AICPA.
I'm from a non-business, non-accounting background. I did mathematical physics in college, so it was kind of a pivot in my career to move into accounting and finance. I looked at all the different options. The reason CIMA attracted me was because I wanted to work in businesses. I wanted to use my analytical skills and leverage those and help drive businesses forward, working within businesses. CIMA's focus on technical accounting, as well as business strategy, corporate finance, that breadth of experience that CIMA gives you and skills that it gives you.
Great. So that's just to give you a bit of a snapshot of some actual real life people. There's more details and more case studies on our site from those people if you want to hear a bit more information. Like I said, we've got lots of that on our site for you to look at. This is just a slide to give you a bit of an idea as to potential earning. Now, this has got London weighting in it, so take it with a pinch of salt. It does differ geographically. It differs from company to company. But the main thing that I want you to take from this is the bottom bit where it has the different levels of the qualification. So usually if you choose to study towards a professional qualification, it is something that you do whilst you're working. So you would get a job with an employer, and the employer would, if it is correct for the job role and you're in a relevant job role, the employer will pay for you to and sponsor you to become qualified, and you'll do this, you'll study and take exams whilst you're working at the same time. That's the usual route that people tend to take. However, you don't have to actually be with an employer if you want to start studying towards the CIMA CGMA qualification. You can actually study it off your own back and self-fund. You don't have to be working, but the usual route is that people tend to be employed and the employer pays for it, and you study and work at the same time. So this is to show you the actual qualification structure. You can see certificate level, operational, management, strategic. Those are the different levels, as you saw at the bottom of the slide before with the salary. The marketplace actually dictates as you're working through a professional qualification, as you get to each level and go through the levels to qualifying, fully qualifying, as your salary should increase, and potentially your job role, depending on your employer and everything like that. But just to give you a bit of an overview of the structure, you work through the different levels of the qualification. If you've never done anything relevant to the qualification before, so relevant study, i.e. a degree or AAT or something like that, then you would start from the beginning, so the certificate level, and then you'd work your way through. Each of those boxes are exams. We've got 16 exams in total. Certificate level, you have 4 exams, which are all multiple choice. Operational level, you've got the 3 exams, objective test exams, and then you do a case study exam. And then again, at the management level, the 3 objective test exams, then a case study exam, and then strategic level, 3 exams, and then the case study exam. And then what makes a professional qualification different from a master's? So a master's level, but we're a professional qualification. What makes that a professional qualification different is that we have the theoretical and practical experience required before you actually become fully qualified. So we look at the top, you'll see PER, practical experience requirements, in that grey sort of bar. We look for 3 years, so we break it down into months, 36 months of relevant practical experience. Now, if you are looking, and when you start studying, if you choose to go down the CIMA route, when I would say have a little look at what our practical experience requirements are. Don't leave it till the end, because it'll be up to you to try and sort of gain that experience that's needed in order to get that, because you'll need it to gain the fully qualified status and to get those letters CGMA after your name. We do take a very holistic view on practical experience requirements. So it's not just all about management accounting. There's lots of different sort of soft skills. There's from presentation skills, computer skills, things like that we actually look at as well. And another thing to note is that the practical experience can be gained before, during, or after studying towards the qualifications. So if you are at university, for example, and you do some summer's work in an accounting department, if it is relevant experience, if you can have that experience verified by somebody who's senior to you, they don't have to be qualified or anything, they just have to be more senior to you and have direct knowledge of the experience you've gained, that can be used towards the 36 months. One thing I would like to say as well is about exemptions. We're the only accounting qualification that actually offers exemptions free of charge. We do not charge for those anymore. And that's been for a few years now. We also offer exemptions. So if you are doing, for example, an accounting and finance degree, you would be exempt from 8 out of the 16 exams. So you just go in at the management level instead of having to do the operational and certificate level. But if you want to look at our website, we do have an exemptions page on there where you can have a look and see what you may be exempt from, depending on your prior learning experience. This is just to show you a little bit about what is actually within the syllabus. Again, you can go onto our website and find out lots more information about what's actually the minutiae detail of what's in the syllabus. But this is just to give you a bit of a flavour. So we've got things like cybersecurity, data analytics, digital mindsets, data strategy. So lots of different things that we cover within the actual syllabus of the qualification. One thing I would like to say to you before is we actually launched in September last year something called the FLP, which is the Finance Leadership Programme, which is a different type of learning, and it's actually an online learning platform. So instead of doing these 16 exams, you can opt to go down the finance leadership route, which means that you would actually have the case study exams only to sit, because what you do is, as you are learning on this online platform, you are getting continually assessed as you're progressing through your learning, which means that you do not have to sit the objective test exams. Very smart AI way of sort of assessing you and making sure that you would be ready to go on to those case study exams. So if you're doing an accounting and finance degree and you think, okay, I want to go down the CIMA CGMA route, you would come in at the management level. That means that if you chose the FLP learning route, then you would just sit the 2 case study exams at those 2 levels. If you have nothing to do with any prior learning and won't get exemptions, you could still go on to do the FLP route, but you would have to start off by doing the core, which covers the certificate level, and then you could progress on to the professional qualification level, which means that you would just need to do the 3 case study exams. So if you're somebody who doesn't really like taking lots of exams, then this is a great new and very sort of, trailblazer type of way of us doing a professional qualification and you becoming qualified. So I definitely say to have a look at that as well. And that is what I've got to say about the professional qualification. I would like to just bring in Michelle now to join the platform. So Michelle, I'll hand it over to you, and we're going to get a great opportunity to hear from somebody who's actually done it, doing it, and sort of will be able to give you a good insight into the reality of everything. And then after Michelle's finished, we'll go and into the Q&A. So don't forget that there is a questions box, and we'll refer to that at the end of the session. So put any of your questions in that as well. I'll leave it to you, Michelle.
Thanks very much, Claire. It was great to hear a lot of similar themes coming out from kind of Claire's presentation. You'd think we'd have done those in conjunction, actually, Claire's and my presentation. So hopefully I'm going to not repeat what Claire's just said, but there are a lot of similar things that I'll talk about. But actually, it's real life, and hopefully brings to life what Claire's just been discussing. So a little bit about me. So as Claire mentioned, I'm the financial controller at a company called Avove Ltd. I'll come on to a bit more about what we do shortly, but a little bit about me and my journey from kind of school through to studying through to CIMA qualification first. So I started off, after GCSEs, not knowing what I wanted to do for A-levels, so just picked a random group of subjects because I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do at that point in time, which I think is the case with a lot of 16-year-olds finishing their GCSEs. So I picked biology, French, media studies, and economics. I didn't even know what economics was at the time, but it seemed quite interesting. So, and that's where it all started. Really, I absolutely fell in love with my economics class, which had never happened before at school. So that was quite a shock, quite a refreshing situation in my life at that time. So I decided then to go on to university and study an economics degree at Loughborough University. So finished my degree at Loughborough. I didn't do a placement year. That wasn't an option on that particular degree at the time. And I came out of university, and everybody's asking now what you're going to do with an economics and finance degree. And the actual words that came out of my mouth were, I'm definitely no way going to be an accountant. And here I am 15 years later, an accountant. So anyway, I applied for graduate roles coming out of university. A lot of them were at the time asking for experience, which coming out of university wasn't. I didn't necessarily have that experience. Had I done a placement year, it may have been different. I think things have changed these days, and it's not necessarily all about experience. It's about kind of, that willingness to kind of learn and get stuck in. So I moved into a pretty small company, so a non-graduate role, basically starting out as an accounting officer. I mean, working at a small company was quite good to begin with. It gave you that end-to-end view of how an overall business kind of works, rather than that kind of, a small cog in a big wheel. But either option. I mean, I was trying to apply for the big companies on the graduate schemes, but it took me into a smaller company, which worked well for me at the time. So why CIMA? and why study for a professional qualification. So I was actually, I didn't know much about it at the time. Starting out in my first role, I was advised by other people in the finance team to start studying for a professional qualification, and they were offering study support at that time, which a lot of companies do provide now in terms of time off and financial support for those as well. There was a benefit to progressing through the studies and then finally becoming qualified in terms of the pound notes going up, which was tempting at the time. And then in terms of why CIMA, Claire's already touched on this, but it was more that kind of business strategy, forward thinking focus that CIMA had compared to the other professional qualifications available. And actually, I felt the benefits of that throughout my CIMA studies, but also, the amount of support post-qualification that CIMA have in terms of continuous professional development as well. So more about me. So this is just it's kind of reiterating what Claire has said really, but to show you actually in real life, all those job titles that Claire kind of put up before, there was a lot on there that are now on mine, but you can see, I've worked at four different places. So Global Transaction Processing, you won't have heard of that. That was the small company that I started off working at. I then moved on to British Gas, where they put me through my studies basically, and I qualified while I was at British Gas, and I was there for 10 years. I then moved on to a company called Amey, who provide infrastructure support services, and then basically I was in the utilities division of Amey, and that division got sold basically, and we became our own company, which was an interesting process to go through. So we kind of separated away from Amey Plc, and we became Avove, and that's where I am now. So in terms of all the different kind of roles, you can see accounting officer, that's what I started off at Global Transaction Processing. OPEX analyst was a role at British Gas. Other ones there were finance analyst, business performance analyst, project finance manager, head of finance business partner. So I covered a whole kind of host of different things within those roles, and some of them a bit more kind of operation business focused. So the business performance analyst was more about data and tracking the performance of a company, and I guess forecasting that going forward and coming up with ideas of how we could kind of change and improve that performance going forward. So not necessarily always about the numbers. So, and in terms of, I guess, bringing to life a couple of examples, as Claire mentioned, in terms of, not just looking at the past performance and crunching the numbers, but I guess using the numbers to make business decisions. So there's been, as my job as a finance business partner, where I was looking after a contract within Amey at the time, and there was a decision to be made about one of our contracts. So our clients, basically, they could either pay us on a what's called a day rate, which is basically they paid us for one person going out and doing a job for a day. They charge us, we charge them £500 a day, for example, or we could do it on a by job basis. So it was kind of modelling which one was the best option to go with, which would drive us the most amount of profit. So it required, modelling around, well, how many volumes would we get out of the day, and then we could times that by the price per job versus a day rate. So that's just one example of using financial information to make a decision that impacts the whole business and the business's profitability. I guess COVID is another example. So when COVID hit, there was a massive impact on our contracts. This again while I was at Amey, and the company wanted to know, well, what impact does COVID have on us as a company, and being able to deliver for our clients. So again, there was a lot of modelling scenarios. If this happens, then the financial impact will be X. If this happens, the financial impact will be Y. So definitely a lot more interesting than kind of just laying out the numbers. It's presenting those numbers in a way that people understand and can make decisions about as well. So just a little bit about Avove, where I work. So again, we did separate from Amey, and we're a standalone company now. So we provide, again, infrastructure support services to our clients in the utilities sector. So our main companies, our biggest area is actually water. So our clients include Yorkshire Water, United Utilities, Severn Trent Water. There are 3 main water companies that we work for. So I guess just to bring what that means to life a little bit. So if there's a new housing estate being built, for example, a new water network needs to be built to go to those new houses. So the new houses have clean running water. We would be responsible in our selected areas to lay that new pipe. There might be areas where the pipe is becoming old and needs replacing, and again we'll do things like that. So we like to think we keep the clean water running for households around the country. We also have some power companies, so Northern Power Grid and Scottish Power you may have heard of. So we actually maintain their power networks to make sure that they avoid any power cuts in their areas. So we make sure that there's no trees and bushes, etc., encroaching onto the power line. We're actually just entering into the broadband kind of telecoms area as well now. So we're growing, and we're responsible for laying new broadband networks basically for a new client that we've just recently signed up with in the last month. So again, if I just move on. So again, a bit of a day in the life of, well, me. There's definitely a theme here. So literally, no, going back to my quote where I said about I'm definitely no way being an accountant. I guess what I didn't understand at that point in time was what the possibilities were of being an accountant. And you saw on the previous slide, actually none of my job titles included the word accountant. So you can see the diversity of the accounting profession. It's just so broad and opens up so many possibilities. So you can see that actually, laying out a day in the life of me is pretty difficult, because I don't think any one day has ever been the same in the life of an accountant. So you can see that, from one day I'll be doing working on tax returns, through to managing our cash flows, a new system implementation. So as part of the separation from Amey into Avove, we had to implement a new system, and I was involved with choosing what that new system would be, and then once we chose that system, actually implementing it and deciding how it was structured and how it would work best for our kind of finance team. I do review profit and loss accounts and balance sheets, which I actually strangely enjoy. But then on the flip side, I'll be looking at kind of process improvement, setting company policies, PowerPoint presentations, presenting information into the exec and board. I in my role, I have to pay suppliers and manage cash flow. I've also got a team of about 20. That obviously takes up some of my time, and training and development is quite a big one in my area as well. And it's not just about training and development for our finance team. We've also done a lot of work in upskilling non-finance colleagues. So we've done Excel training with non-finance people, and we've gone through kind of the basics of P&L, balance sheet, cash flows with them, just to kind of make them realise the importance of kind of what they do and how that kind of fits into the overall kind of bigger picture of the financials of the company. So I guess reiterating or along a similar theme as what I've mentioned before, that the reason I said I didn't want to be an accountant, because I had in my head it was all about the financial accounting side, and that would be boring, was my opinion when I was coming out of university. So this basically, the myth buster is, it is definitely 100%, 110%, not a boring job at all. I actually Googled some accounting jokes. You'd be surprised at how many accounting jokes there are out there, and not one of them is funny, really. But they all imply that accountants are boring. So I was just putting a little joke on there for you. Welcome to the accounting department, where everybody counts, literally. So just a little bit of advice, really, for you all. So I heard this on a podcast actually, and I really liked the long-winded way it was trying to say, just basically follow what you enjoy. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, generally Monday to Friday is a real drag. If you enjoy it like I do, Monday to Friday flies by, and the weekend's here before I know it. So you might not necessarily know what exactly you want to do, same as me coming out of after sixth form, coming out of university, didn't know what I wanted to do, but always make sure that you don't do things you don't want to be doing, and basically find something you love and follow that track. And then finally, just opportunities at Avove. So you can check out our website, which is www.avove.co.uk. You can see a bit more about what we do. It's got a careers page on there with job opportunities. Our LinkedIn page is very active, if you want to go and have a look there. And we started a graduate scheme this year, so we had our first intake this September, just gone, and the plan will be to do that on an annual basis. So again, just look out for details kind of next Q2, around Q2, Q3 on the graduate intake for 2024. I think the last slide is just a thank you for listening.
Brilliant. Thank you, Michelle. Thanks for sharing your personal experience and sort of background and everything. And hopefully everybody sort of found that of use. Now we're going to go to the Q&A side of things now. So Michelle, if I'll go through and have a look at what questions have been asked and everything, and hopefully between the two of us we can sort of answer some of these questions. I've noticed that there are a lot of questions about exemptions. Now you can go onto our website and find out exactly what exemptions you will gain, but just to give you a bit of an idea, so I think somebody did business management degree. We've got somebody who's done a finance and accounting MSc, somebody who's doing a finance and accounting degree, or an accounting degree. What I did show you, and I don't know if in the background, if we can put up the slide from my presentation just with the syllabus, that'd be great. So let me get it through, and then I can explain it a bit more for everybody. Okay, so this is the structure of the syllabus. Now, if you've done a degree in, so an undergraduate degree in something like business management, then you will potentially, and I'm saying potentially because it may differ from university to university, and you just need to check that your institution has got accreditation, but you would potentially have exemptions for the certificate level, which means that you would come in at the operational level of the qualification. If you have done a finance and accounting degree, something like that, then you would be exempt from the certificate and operational level, which means that you would come in at the management level exams. If you were to have done a master's degree, so an MSc in finance and accounting, then you would come in at the management case study level. So you'd have to complete that to go on to the strategic case study exams. So hopefully that's a bit sort of clear as to where you might come in exemptions wise. If you've done a degree in English or history, so have no prior learning that will touch on our actual syllabus, then you would have to start from the beginning. So you'd start at the certificate level. But you can go onto our website because, as I said, from university to university, it may differ because of just your university getting the accreditation from the professional qualification. But I'd say that most universities within the UK, particularly for the accounting, finance, accounting, finance, those sorts of programs will be accredited. Okay, right. I'll just take that off and just have a little look through the questions. How do you gain that level as being an accountant? I have just graduated with business management this September. Okay, so I think that the question's asking, how do you become a qualified accountant after you've just graduated? If that's correct, then, and I'm sort of reading the question correctly, really, as Michelle was sort of pointing out with her experience, what you would do is you would apply for a job, and hopefully that job is something that would give you relevant experience, and the company would then sponsor you to become qualified. So you'd be working and you'd be studying at the same time towards the professional qualification. You do not, though, and I think this was a question I saw earlier, as to whether or not you need a training contract. With the CGMA CIMA professional qualification, you don't need a training contract like you do with something like ICAW. You don't need a training contract or to go with a particular company that's a training provider company. You can start studying even if you don't have a job. Okay, but you would be self-funding, obviously, on that occasion. If you then got a job, then obviously it's your own individual agreement with the employer as to whether then they take on your fees towards studying and everything like that. But it can vary from company to company. Michelle, I don't know if you sort of saw it with your studies, if you qualified in one place or if you moved whilst you were studying.
Yeah, I mean, the first smaller company I was at, they would pay for the books and the exams, but not to go and do actual tuition, which was all classroom based at that time when I qualified. British Gas paid for everything, and similar with Avove. Actually, I qualified before I came to Avove, but they have a study support package that pays for all your classes, whether that's online or in the classroom, pay for the exams, and time off as well, and then also our ongoing professional subscription as well that's paid. Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, so it is really an agreement between yourself and the company that you work for, as opposed to yourself and us as a qualification. I've got one question sort of asking about how long is the period of sitting or studying period for each level. Now, that can differ, and that's very much an individual thing. That can really differ from person to person. It's not, if you sign up to start studying towards the CGMA professional qualification, it's not like university where, okay, now you go to classes and blah, blah, blah. There are so many different ways that you can study towards the qualification, but it's very much an individual basis or a basis that you've agreed with your employer as to how you'll study and how long you might sort of go take to get through the studies. But it can, I don't know, it also depends on where you start in the qualification, how you're finding each module. Some people find things easier than others and can get through things quickly, but it can vary from a year and a half to 10 years. You know, it really is like that. We tend to say, if you are studying the qualification from scratch and you are in a graduate role, it tends to take about 3 years to become fully qualified. And that's usually because it works in line with a graduate scheme, which tends to be a 3-year rotation. That seems to be the average amount of time. But, you know, with this new way of, or new route of studying the finance leadership program way, where you're doing it all online, we're finding that people are sometimes getting through it a lot quicker. But it really is a personal journey with regards to how quick or how slow you get through it. Michelle, I don't know if you had anything to add to that from your experience.
No, similar. It is, you know, I knew somebody that took about 10 years to pass theirs, and again, it's all down to personal circumstances. Some people study it when they've got children, and therefore it's much more difficult. It took me about three 3 years. That wasn't on a graduate programme, but that seems to be kind of this, norm, I think, or the average time from what I've seen that people take. But again, it could be less, it could be more. Yeah.
Lovely, thanks, Michelle. And then I've got can I use this certification in US or Canada? Yes, so the CGMA qualification is recognised in the US, and that's through our joint venture that happened several years ago with the AICPA, which is the main accounting qualification in America. We are part of that sort of CPA sort of group. So yes, it is a CGMA, which is Chartered Global Management Accounting, is a recognised qualification in the US and Canada. So we are a truly global qualification. Are there scholarships for this programme? So it's probably not scholarship, but probably sponsorship. That's maybe more what you're asking on that question. So as we were saying before, it's a sponsorship by an employer, which is how you then would study towards the qualification whilst you're working at the same time. The employer would sponsor you, i.e. pay for you and give you time off to do exams and study and that sort of side of things. So hopefully that's answered that question. I'm just going to have a quick look through, because I think we grouped quite a few of these questions together already and answered them. How do I make the choice between CIMA and other professional qualifications such as ACCA, since most offer similar courses? Now, they offer we offer similar courses, i.e. professional qualifications with practical experience that's required and everything like that. But the syllabuses are quite different, so have a good look at those. What we were saying within our presentations, myself from the actual professional qualification side of things and Michelle from her own experience, is that, it's a choice about really identifying if financial accounting or management accounting is the route that you want to take within your career moving forward, and actually what you would enjoy more. Are you somebody who's more of that number cruncher, more of that financial accounting person, which is probably why you would choose another accounting qualification such as ACCA or ICAW, because their syllabus is focused more on that financial accounting side of things. Yes, there is that management accounting part of it that they cover, like we cover an element of financial accounting. However, our focus and the predominance of our qualification is based around that management accounting, that business finance, that strategic side of things. So that's why in my presentation at the beginning, I wanted to sort of make it really clear the difference between the two, so that hopefully, obviously there's grey areas, there'll be different things that you hear about the different qualifications, but if you simplify it, the easiest way to understand the differences is just the understanding between the financial accounting side and the management accounting side, and understand which one is your preference. So hopefully that will help you with your decision making. They're all chartered qualifications. We are CIMA, Chartered Institute of Management Accounting. So, it's not that's not within it. We all look for practical experience requirements, minimum of 3 years. So that's all similar, but it's the syllabus which is the main sort of differentiator. Can we have the recording of this webinar? I do believe that it will be available to you afterwards. So yes, I believe so. So I think that we've answered pretty much all these answers that have questions that have come through. We're coming to the last 5 minutes of the presentation time that we have for this session. I'll give it a minute or so. Michelle, I don't know if whilst anybody's thinking of any further questions, if you wanted to give your final bit of advice or anything like that to the audience today.
I was just going to say, actually, there's probably one that we've maybe missed around, the 3 years experience.
Okay.
Whether there's a particular position recommended or department to work in. So all I was going to say was, actually, you do find with a graduate scheme, I think you mentioned the rotation, Claire, before, that tends to be focused around giving you all that kind of experience to move around all the different teams. However, personally, I didn't go through that route, and there's lots and lots of other people who managed to get all the experience. I mean, what I made sure I did is, as soon as I started studying, is having one eye on that practical experience requirement, so that you don't get to the end of your studies after 3 years and then you go, oh, actually I can't qualify for another year or two because I've not got that practical experience. It might not necessarily always be available in the current role that you've got, but all I did was discuss with my manager about areas that I had to kind of tick off, and have a bit of experience in. You can't have 3 years experience in every single element of it. So it's about being organised with your practical experience requirement document and conversations with your manager that you're working with to say, actually, could I just do a project for a couple of months in this particular area, move, speak to somebody in that team, so I can get some experience. So just have one eye on that, your practical experience, so it doesn't take you, even longer after you finish the exam side. And I think
I think more questions coming through. We've only got a few minutes, so hopefully we can answer these. Is there anything I could do to start on this pathway in my first year of undergrad degree? I'm doing economics and finance. So just to say that exemptions aren't granted until you have completed your degree. So if you are doing an accounting and economics and finance degree, undergraduate degree, and want to do the CIMA CGMA qualification, then you will not get the exemptions prior to actually finishing your degree. So anything you can do to start on the pathway is probably get some of that practical experience under your belt in any of your holidays, because as I said before, the 36 months, the 3 years that we look for can be gained before, during or after studying towards the qualification. Obviously, exemptions wise and actually starting the qualification, all that side of things, you can't get that until you've completed your undergraduate degree programme. Again, somebody asking about how long is the period of studying for each level. I mean, again, what we were saying is it's an individual journey. There's no set period for each level. Michelle, I don't know if you want to give a bit of a rough as how long it roughly took you, but as we were saying before, it can take from a year to 10 years, depending on how quickly or how easy people are finding these modules and personal circumstances. It's very much a self-motivated type of program that you're doing in a professional qualification. It's a bit different from uni. So yes. 1 minute left, Michelle.
Yeah, I was going to say actually. So when I studied, it was basically there were 2 sittings per year, whereas I think it's a bit different now, Claire. That it's
so the objective test exams you can sit any time of year.
Yes.
And the case study exams are 3 sittings a year.
Okay, yeah. But basically, I found that I'd be doing 2 to 3 exams every 6 months is how I kind of got through it, which probably seems about fair. But again, some people like to concentrate on one at a time because they find that easy. So again, it is all down to personal preference.
Yeah, and that works. You were sort of quite average, sort of the 3 years to get qualified. So that sort of works within the average. I'm not sure on that last question that's come through. Is there a full assumption of CIMA? Unless you do.
No, not sure what that
means. Claire, you said that the practical experience can be from previous jobs. Is there a limit to how long the experience is from? The main thing is that you need to get a verifier for the experience. So if it's experience that you've had a long time ago and you can't get it verified, then you'll struggle that will count towards your practical experience requirements. And I think, we are literally at the end, and I think the session will automatically close. So I will be saying our goodbyes and thank yous and everything to everybody. Sorry if we didn't get to answer any of your questions last minute. But I just want to say goodbye before we get to close down of the session and it all finishes. So hopefully you've learned a bit more about the CIMA CGMA qualification and, what it is actually be a management accountant in real life. So good luck, everyone. Thanks for joining today. And you will receive the recording so you can sort of go through that again, and hopefully we've answered your questions the best that we can. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks, Claire. Bye.
Bye.